Are these Avengers Doomsday trailer descriptions the real deal? Could David Ellison of Skydance Paramount run off James Gunn if they buy Warner Brothers in DC? And what the hell is going on in the new show from Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan, Pluribus? Those are some of your burning questions that I have selected for this week's edition of Ask Colton. Hey everybody, Colton here, and this is the mailbag style show where I take your questions about Marvel, Star Wars, DC, movies and streaming in general. Whatever you want to ask, send it into the email address AskColtonNow@gmail.com, link in the description below. And hey, maybe you'll see your question featured right here on the show. And a little later, after we go through the questions, I want to share with you guys a special video I've been working on breaking down the Superman 2025 box office numbers and whether or not the film was actually a success or a failure. And I want to give you my thoughts on Predator Badlands, so let's get started. Oh, I'm thinking maybe about having a procedure. I'll share that with you in this video as well. All right, our first question comes to us from Mike Donland. Mike writes, "Hey Colton, it looks like you were right." Oh, I'd love to hear that. You were right about our first Avengers Doomsday teaser trailer coming out in December with Avatar 3. I saw other YouTubers talking about the trailer description and what Doom is going to look like, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, I have been meaning to take a little bit of a victory lap after calling a while ago that our first Doomsday teaser would indeed be coming with Avatar Fire and Ash. It's just too perfect of an opportunity for them not to do it. Avatar 3 is a Disney film. Doomsday's a Disney film. Avatar 3 is anticipated to make, I would guess, like $2 billion at least at the box office. That's if the previous installments are any indication. And there's of course the fact that December, this upcoming December, that is the 1 year out point for Avengers Doomsday. And with a movie on the scale of Doomsday, the marketing, it's just going to be absolutely insane. And it makes sense that your first teaser, kind of like with Force Awakens comes to mind. They released the first teaser for that a year out. It makes sense that they would drop it a year out. Now, for other films, smaller films, even smaller blockbusters, I'm a big advocate for wait before you start your marketing push. It's a waste of money to start your marketing push a year out. But for a film like Doomsday, it's just a little different because there's so much that goes into a movie like that and how you market that kind of movie on that scale. All right, so we now have a potential description for the Doomsday teaser. There are reports that the individual who saw the trailer said that it's not finished, but that they were surprised by the amount of footage they showed of Dr. Doom in action. They also said that this is not a teaser trailer, implying that it's like a full-on trailer, so perhaps we are getting like a full-fledged trailer 1, not just like a less than a minute teaser. Now, Chris Gore, who, I'm not trying to throw any shade, but I'm hesitant to necessarily believe exactly what he's saying or the source that he's getting his reporting from. But he does say, quote, "You're going to get not just a glimpse of Doom, you're going to see Doom." And I will say I am very glad to hear that, because I've been screaming at the top of my lungs ever since Downey Doom was announced that, one, it's absolute lunacy to think that they would cast RDJ as Dr. Doom and keep him under the mask the entire time. Some people have actually floated that, and their argument is, oh, well, you know, Dr. Doom in the comics, he never takes his mask off. That's true, that he very rarely takes his mask off. You know when he does take his mask off, though? Secret Wars. What is Doomsday leading right into? Secret Wars. So I think the idea or the suggestion that he won't take his mask off at all in Avengers Doomsday is ridiculous. I do think it's possible that he doesn't take it off much. I think it's in fact likely that for Doomsday, he has the mask on most of the time. And then in Secret Wars is when he'll have it off a lot. But there have also been some who have suggested that they will not show Downey's face in the trailers either. Again, to that I just say bullshit. There is no way in hell that they bring back Downey to play Doom and pay him the money they're paying him to do it, and then just don't show him in the trailer. Don't show his face. Don't plaster his face on all of the posters and the trailer. I'm sorry. It's just that's not going to happen. They are going to have Downey's face all throughout the marketing for this movie. I don't think they're gonna pull the Spider-Man No Way Home where they, didn't show Tobey Maguire, didn't show Andrew Garfield, wouldn't even acknowledge they were in it. The cat's out of the bag. We know Downey Doom is, the lead really of this film, kind of like how Thanos was the lead of Infinity War. He's the draw. He is what they're going for. And what they're hoping gets a lot of asses back in seats for a Marvel film. So I just see no scenario where they don't plaster him all over the marketing for this. So I am glad to hear that this report from an individual who claims to have seen like a cut of the teaser, them saying that Downey Doom's all up in it. That's great to hear. Now, the report continues, quote, "The way the character was described in terms of Downey's interpretation is a classic Universal monster like the Phantom of the Opera. It's a tragic figure and a broken figure, and part of it is his armor. Doom must have his armor because he has a broken body," he continued. Quote, "Scarred. He went full Universal monster with the interpretation. He needs the suit to actually function," end of quote. Yes, bitch, yes. This is exactly what I've been calling for, what many of you have been calling for. Now, the Hot Mics host, Jeff Snyder, sorry, I'm reading my notes here, and John Roca, they compared Dr. Doom to Darth Vader and suggested that he will be a tragic figure having lost his planet and the woman he loved. Wow. Okay, so there's a lot there. In the comics, we have seen a version of Victor where he is like very minutely scarred, like it's very minuscule, the scar on his face, but he's still super sensitive about it. But we've also seen versions where his face is just a total shit show and malformed, and there's a version where he doesn't have a nose. We've seen a version where like the mask, when he puts on the mask, it like melts to his face. It's grody, and I think that that's totally what we're getting here in Avengers Doomsday. I think that's what they're going to be going for with Doctor Doom. And then come Avengers Secret Wars, we're probably going to see him like without the mask most of the movie and with a healed face. The scarring will be gone, which is what we see in the Secret Wars comics. There was even in that Fantastic Four post-credit scene where little Franklin Richards seemed to be intrigued by Doom's face, and with Franklin having the ability to heal people, like he, resurrected his mother, maybe Franklin's attempting to heal Doom's face. So maybe we see that happen in Doomsday. Now, speaking of Sue and Franklin, we also got this TikTok from some people who work at the Russo brothers production office. And in the back, well, first let me talk about the TikTok. I love that TikTok. And I love how they had Iron Man and Doctor Doom and showing how we're the same but different, the dichotomy between these two characters. I asked my wife, like, what is this TikTok like about? Like, what's the theme of it? Like the trend. And she basically explained to me that it's like sisters will do it, like they're sisters but they're different, like that kind of thing. Maybe that's right. I don't know. I'm not the authority on TikTok. But to me that kind of reinforces the fact that yes, Tony and Doom, they're very much the same, but they're also very different. And we are going to get basically what I've been calling for. They're variants. I hope that they go the adoption route where we learn that Tony Stark, yes, he is a variant of Victor Von Doom who was adopted by the Starks. I think that would be the coolest way to do it. Anyway, so in that TikTok where they have the Iron Man mask and the Doctor Doom mask, anyway, in the background of this TikTok, we see RDJ's Doom outfit from the announcement video where at Comic-Con rather, where they announced him as Doctor Doom. And we also see the costumes for Sue and Franklin, and they're standing there almost like a little family. And again, like in Secret Wars, in the comics, there are, and I'm trying to remember, it's been so long since I've read Secret Wars, but there's basically a scenario where there's like an alternate reality, and we see Doom essentially take Sue as his wife and Franklin as his adopted son. So I think that's totally what we're seeing happening here, and why they have them standing together like that as a little family. I think that's going to be a key focus, perhaps, of Doomsday and Secret Wars. And maybe it is going to be Ben, Johnny, and Reed who are working with the Avengers and the X-Men to get Sue and Franklin back. And we could see Sue at Doom's side for a lot of the movie. Maybe not necessarily because she wants to be, but because Doom has her son. And he basically says, look, I'd love to have you here with me to help keep Franklin calm. But if you try to interfere or fuck with my shit or fuck with my plan, I'll just, I'll get rid of you. You can go away. So you can stay and be with Franklin and don't get in my way. Or if you start to get in my way, you're out of here. And maybe Sue's like, well, I want to stay with my son. So that'll be interesting to see. In other news, there's a lot of Doctor Doom news, Doomsday news. We saw Marvel shared this picture of Tony from Age of Ultron saying that when he wants a suit of armor around the world. And then there's this scene from the Fantastic Four that they put with it, where Sue says to Reed that he has baby-proofed the world. And I am telling you all of this, guys, because this is exactly all of this news we're hearing, from the trailer to that Russo's Office TikTok to this post from Marvel. This is exactly what I've been saying and wanting and claiming needed to be for this to be done right. And my faith that they would be going this route with it, because I think it's brilliant, but it's also just so obvious that this is how they need to handle it and do a true Doctor Doom while also having this Tony Stark connection. And they are doing everything that I hoped they would do. And the arguments I've been making for, no, it's not just a gimmick. No, it doesn't, take away from the character of Doctor Doom if you do it this way. And it seems to be the way they're doing it. So, many people chat on the idea of Downey playing Doom and Tony and Doom being variants, and how it would somehow lessen the comic accuracy and the backstory of Victor Von Doom and his character. But I just think that's total horseshit, because Victor Von Doom and the MCU's Tony Stark, they have so much in common. And I think Age of Ultron actually showed that a lot, with Tony's desire to protect the world, freedoms be damned. That is so Doctor Doom. And in a lot of ways, Reed Richards. So there's going to be such a cool dichotomy between Doom and Richards, like we expect from the comics, but also we're going to get to see this dichotomy between who we know as, Tony Stark, the MCU Tony Stark, and what his dichotomy with Reed Richards would be. Now, speaking of Tony and Doom, there's also the similarities between their attachment to their tech. Tony needed the arc reactor to stay alive, and Doom, if this reporting is true, he's going to need his suit to stay alive, kind of like Darth Vader. And this could mean that Doom perhaps had a similar incident as Tony with the shrapnel, going into his heart. Perhaps Doom had a similar situation that fucked up his face, or maybe we'll see a version of the character. Because let me back up a little. What I like in multiversal storytelling and stuff like that is how you can have two versions of a character go on different paths, but you see similar story beats happen, because it's just like the rhythm of the cosmos or whatever. So I like the idea of, even with Tony being a Victor Von Doom who was adopted and went his own path in life, I like the idea of them still just hitting like these cosmic rules of the road that is just kind of like in the DNA of their specific character. And so certain things, despite them being in different realities, these same things still happen from a vague, like, macro sense. So they could both experience like a situation that makes them reliant on their own tech, Tony and Doom. Or we could see a situation where Doom in his universe, just like Tony in the 616, is also put in a position where he gets the Infinity Stones and has to snap to save reality or whatever. Or maybe in that universe, he actually sought the stones. Like Doom is like, I want the stones because I am finally going to, I think I just spit everywhere, I'm sorry. I am finally going to bring forth the security that I've been looking to bring to this planet, and I need the Infinity Stones to do it. And so anyway, whatever that ends up being, when he snaps, it'd be so cool if we see him like get fused with his suit. Like the armor fuses with his body, the mask fuses with his face and just fucks him up. And despite him surviving the snap, he is now reliant on his armor. He cannot be separated from his armor. He's brutally scarred by the whole ordeal. And in order to stay alive and function, he has to remain connected to his suit. And it just turns him into something else. And the possibilities with that are just endless. I love the idea of him being like deformed and like Darth Vader-esque. I've been saying that I really hope that what these two Avengers movies can do is if they include a third Avengers film, either one between Doomsday and Secret Wars or one after Secret Wars, don't release any other movies in between. Just release Avengers, Avengers, Avengers. Doomsday, whatever, Secret Wars, or Doomsday, Secret Wars, whatever. Do a trilogy that you can only watch, that if you like, that you can enjoy even if you haven't seen any of the other stuff. Make something that can compete with the original Star Wars trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Tell an Avengers trilogy. Something that the MCU has an issue with is being able to tell true trilogies, like such as with their individual characters. Like you can't watch the Thor trilogy or the Captain America trilogy without having to have seen other movies and to understand what's going on, because there's so much story that happens in between. With these Avengers movies, they could tell like a trilogy of stories and have them come out 1 year apart, each of them. It could be so good. So I want to hear your thoughts and theories on all of this reporting down in the comments below. It's got me really excited. And thank you so much for submitting that question. All right, next we've got a question from Lee Ferguson. Lee asks, why are so many people so certain that James Gunn will be fired from DC if Skydance buys Warner Brothers? I saw a report saying that Ellison wants to keep James Gunn and Peter Safran at DC Studios. Okay, so ever since David Ellison and Skydance set their sights on buying Warner Brothers, just like they bought Paramount, many have speculated that this could spell doom for the new DCU, just as it's getting started. And while I have been adamant that this will not happen, there is one story out in like this past week or so that does have me a little nervous about James Gunn's future and the DCU's future if Ellison and Skydance Paramount get their hands on Warner Brothers, a purchase that I've never been a fan of them being the ones to buy Warner Brothers, but it's never been because I thought that they would boot James Gunn or restart the DCU. That's never been my concern. I've had other concerns, and I'll share those with you, why I didn't want them to buy Warner Brothers. But James Gunn's future and the DCU's future was never one of them. Until now. Look, Ellison, Skydance, they have said that they have every intention to keep James Gunn and keep the DC Studios creative team fully intact if they were to buy Warner Brothers. And to that I say, yeah, of course they would, because they'd be insane not to. It's an extremely successful new franchise. Why would you rip the cord and start over again? So I am glad to see that I was right about that. And I still stand behind my claim that despite my critiques of Ellison, I think there is no way that he would just straight up fire James Gunn upon purchase of Warner Brothers. But I could see Ellison, after purchasing Warner Brothers, stepping on James Gunn's toes and Gunn deciding to leave. Let me explain. So I've never been a fan of the idea of Skydance buying Warner Brothers after they just bought Paramount. It's too much. It's a monopoly. It hurts the industry. And while I'm not a big fan of David Ellison and Skydance and their recent corporate consolidation and the thumb that they've been putting on the scale at CBS and the thumb that they tried to put on Taylor Sheridan, which we're going to talk about here shortly, I don't like that they are capitulating to the demands of the executive branch, to, just stroke an ego in exchange for, approving acquisitions to build their media empire. it's gross. I don't like it. So my preference is, if Warner Brothers is going to sell, which my preference would be that they don't, but if they had to, my personal preference has been that Apple purchase Warner Brothers. I did a video talking about why. Feel free to check that out. And I'm actually becoming more open to the idea of Netflix buying them, because despite Netflix historically being a streaming service and prioritizing streaming, we are seeing them, ever so slightly more and more give their films theatrical runs, which is encouraging. But there was actually a recent report that Weapons writer and director Zach Kreger, he's in a bit of a dispute with Netflix right now, because they want to make his next movie, but they don't want to give it a theatrical run, which is a non-starter for Kreger, or Krieger. Is it Kreger or Krieger? I'm going to feel bad about that now. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening there. It seems like Netflix takes one step forward, two steps back when it comes to the theatrical thing. So my preference is still Apple, but I think I would prefer Netflix definitely over Skydance. And for the love of God, let me just really quick, I'm kind of going off course here, but these poor Snyder bros thinking that if Netflix does buy Warner Brothers, that they're going to bring back the Snyderverse. It's so adorable and simultaneously pathetic. And I say that as a fan of, Man of Steel and of several of Zack Snyder's other films. But it's not going to happen, okay? The DCEU, it was an epic failure. And Netflix and Snyder's partnership on Rebel Moon 1 and Rebel Moon 2, they were both just epic failures. The DCEU, the Snyderverse, it's an epic failure. It's dead. It's never happening. Your best bet of ever seeing any remnants of that old DCEU is if James Gunn decides to tell a multiversal story and like bring back Cavill as like a Kingdom Come Superman or something in like 10 years time. That would actually be kind of cool. So that's your best shot of ever seeing any of those old DCEU characters, apart from the ones that James Gunn decides to keep canon to the DCU. Show up again. I'm also a big fan of Ben Affleck's Batman, and well, it's never going to happen. I'd love to see him be the DCU Batman. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent as usual. So anyway, Skydance, the Ellisons, Paramount, whatever, they're at the bottom of the list for who I would want to see by Warner Brothers. And now we have yet another reason as to why they are at the bottom of the list for who I want to see by Warner Brothers. And that reason is David Ellison. He has somehow managed to lose arguably Paramount's most valuable asset, Taylor Sheridan, the mind behind Yellowstone, Landman, Wind River, Sicario, Mayor of Kingstown, Hell or High Water. I could go on. Sheridan is Paramount Plus. He has made this company a lot of money, and he was one of, if not the most valuable pieces of Paramount when Skydance bought them. The only other name that comes to mind for me that could even remotely compare to the loss, the size of the loss that Sheridan was and will be to Paramount is Tom Cruise. But honestly, I think losing Sheridan may be an even bigger hit to this company than losing Tom Cruise would be, strictly from a numbers perspective. Because, the amount of money this dude has made for Paramount is absolutely insane. So yeah, according to recent reports, it was Ellison who ran Sheridan away. He was putting pressure on Sheridan to create a show that leaned into, I'm not trying to get political here, but this is the report, that leaned into right-leaning politics and messaging, which is crazy because a lot of Sheridan's stuff, like Yellowstone and like Landman and all of these shows and stuff that he has done for Paramount, it's already like Republican coded or conservative coded. It appeals to middle America. It appeals to the left and the right. But there is a big audience for Taylor Sheridan shows who would consider themselves on the political right, and they love Sheridan's work. So if Ellison's goal was, we want a show that can appeal to this mass audience, Sheridan was already doing it. But here Ellison is asking Sheridan to dial that to 11, and Sheridan said no. And he decided to walk, and now he's a partner with Universal, and he signed like $1 billion deal. And it is insane to me that Ellison would let walk away such an asset because he wanted to push some type of agenda that it was kind of already being put. And I'm not saying that Yellowstone pushes an agenda or any of those shows. I'm just saying that, well, why was he wanting these shows to be so on the nose and promote like this certain political thing? Well, why even tell Taylor Sheridan, who's a guy who really just does his own thing, and it's worked out really well for Paramount to just let the dude cook? Why come in there and step on his toes and say, oh, we'll do this. And then, fine, if you as the owner of the company want to offer ideas, that's fully within your right to do. It's fully within your right to push him and say, hey, you're going to do this. That's fully within your right as the owner. But why would you do it? Why would you do that? Let the guy cook. So anyway, this asinine move by Ellison, it has me scared for the first time that this dipshit might actually run off James Gunn the same way that he has run off Sheridan. I'm scared that Ellison's going to come strolling into DC Studios, playing my dick's bigger than yours, and try to change the direction of the studio and the films and the shows that Gunn has planned out. And if Ellison tries to make Gunn censor himself or puts pressures on Gunn to promote certain political agendas or whatever, incorporate like a right-wing messaging or something into his films, James Gunn's on the left. That's not gonna go well. There is a 0% chance that James Gunn sticks around for that. I could see him totally leaving if Ellison won't just let him do his thing. And again, I go back to James Gunn, like Sheridan, proven success. Let the man cook and make you a shit ton of money. Ellison couldn't seem to let that be with Sheridan, and I'm afraid that the same thing could happen with Gunn and with DC Studios. And if that happens, if Ellison manages to run off Gunn the same way he just ran off Sheridan, here's what would happen. If Gunn leaves, I think Peter Safran, the co-CEO, he would walk as well, which would be another huge loss for the company. Because one of the key reasons you buy Warner Brothers is Peter Safran. He is one of the best film producers working today. And if you lose him, and then you also lose a lot of your DCU cast who would either like abandon their contracts or refuse to renew them, like in solidarity with James Gunn, who is notoriously, he has a tight-knit relationship with his cast. And just like his cast stood by him when Disney tried shit canning him. So if Ellison runs off James Gunn after, buying Warner Brothers and DC Studios, if they run off James Gunn, we're faced with yet another decade of despair, I think, for DC. And as a fan of DC Comics, I hope to God that doesn't happen, because we are living in a renaissance right now for DC. DC, for the first time in 15 years, 20 years, it's at a point where it might actually be able to surpass Marvel in terms of like movies. Comics is a whole different discussion, but become the more like successful and beloved comic book movie franchise. And this Ellison dipshit might just blow the whole thing up. It's insane. All right. Kind of mad now. Let's move on to our next question. Thank you so much for that question. Jenson Green asks, can you please explain what the heck is going on in Pluribus? I love the show, but I don't understand what's happening at all. Are the people aliens now or what? Thank you for your attention to this. I love your little sign off there like our dear leader does. Okay, yeah. So many are wondering what the hell is going on in the show Pluribus. What happened to everyone? Why are they now in sync? And, are their consciousnesses really like still there? Can this be reversed? Can they be like separated back out? Were aliens involved? Let's talk about it all, and I'll do my best to explain what exactly this virus is and how it works. So, Pluribus, it's the new show from Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He's arguably one of, if not the greatest showrunners and writer-directors of all time. Imagine if, he started working with Skydance. He'd be one of the top guys that Ellison would manage to run off somehow. Ha! Zing! All right, anyway, Gilligan's great. He's been doing a bit of a pivot here recently with this Pluribus show, back to his science fiction roots, which is exciting. He worked on X-Files earlier in his career. And yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes of this new show, Pluribus. It is fucking great. Over on Screen Crush, Ryan is doing awesome breakdowns of the episodes that I highly recommend you check out. But as far as what's going on, this is the best way I know to explain it. There's an extraterrestrial signal being broadcast through space, the same way that we broadcast signals through space. So yes, it's like a radio signal that was sent by an alien race. It didn't come from us. It came from a different, like, advanced society somewhere out there. And what this message contains is essentially like code, like Morse code almost, that can be transcribed into genetic sequencing. And that sequencing can be used to create essentially a virus that applies that sequencing to the genetic makeup of its host. So had the scientists not used the signal as a guide to create this genetic coding and introduce it to the biology of life on Earth, everything would have been fine. This wouldn't be happening. The signal itself being beamed to Earth wouldn't affect like the brain waves of people and automatically alter their DNA. It is only, from my understanding, it is only because human beings sequenced this RNA and made it biological that we are now in this situation. So once the virus is created, based on the genetic coding formula that was sent, it now acts almost as if it is this self-replicating, self-assembling entity. And its job, like any virus, is to spread and spread rapidly. So each individual that becomes infected, they're acting all happy and shit because that's what this genetic redraw does. But what's really bizarre about it is not just how it affects the individual once you're infected with the virus, but it's this virus's ability to essentially connect consciousness without any physical connection. Like in The Last of Us, the virus, communicates through like vines and shit, right? Like if you step on a vine that's connected to, I don't know a lot about The Last of Us. I like the show. But, if you step on a vine, it'll like alert the zombies that are connected to that same fungus. Like, oh, those fuckers are over there. But in Pluribus, this virus has successfully linked all who are infected with the virus through a non-physical connection, almost like Wi-Fi, sort of. There's something this sequencing does that is transcending consciousness almost. And it's acting like, it's almost as if it makes everyone's consciousness like quantumly entangled. And quantum entanglement meaning like, okay, so say you have like, I'm no physicist, but say you have like a particle or something and you're observing it. And then there's another particle and the 2 particles, they are not touching, they're not connected, but they somehow still share a connection that we don't see or really understand, I guess. But the data is there to prove that they are, in fact, quantumly entangled. So there is some type of something in that realm going on. There's some type of advanced understanding, I guess, for those who develop this genetic coding that transcends our understanding of consciousness and that makes it to where these consciousnesses can interact and become one, and they are interacting on a level of transmission beyond that of like a physical touch or like, some kind of cabling or whatever. And what this has done is it has taken individual consciousness and linked it into one giant consciousness. All individual consciousnesses are now one. And they have become essentially this being who, seems nice and, is conflict averse, but it didn't ask really before invading the planet and infecting everyone. So that's kind of fucked up. Now, the question of, who sent it, who created it, could it be like an alien civilization's way of bringing peace to the universe, making humanity submissive to like another species rule? Like maybe they're on their way in their ship and they want humanity to not fight them when they arrive. I think it's probably most likely that the alien civilization that has sent the coding is also infected by the coding itself. And what we are seeing is this genetic coding virus now expanding throughout the cosmos, and it's colonizing planets. But I don't think it's quite been established yet if this consciousness, this pluribus, the many, the we, whatever we're calling them, I don't know yet if they are connected to other civilizations outside of Earth. Like, so if the civilization that sent the virus, the genetic coding, is also infected by it, would those infected by it on Earth now be connected to them as well? It doesn't appear so. So that's interesting. Maybe it's just too far for it to be connected. We'll just have to see. But yeah, that's my understanding of it. Take it for what you will. There's also like the deeper themes of the show and the message of the show, which is, just as interesting. It's a commentary on happiness and blissful ignorance and individuality and the cost of peace versus freedom. It's really cool. And I'm excited to see episode 3. And again, Ryan's doing some great breakdowns of the show. So be sure to check those out over on Screen Crush. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to talk Predator Badlands. It was fucking awesome. I loved every fucking second of it. It may be the best Predator movie ever made. And if it's not, it's second only to Prey, which was made by the same dude. And unfortunately, I have not yet seen Predator Killer of Killers, which is also made by the same dude. But I hear it's also fucking great. So we are in a good spot for Predator films. I hope they let this guy, just cook and continue to make awesome Predator films, and hell, let him take a crack at Alien. This movie, it was funny. It had heart. It was action-packed. It had stakes, and I never found myself bored or looking at my watch or anything. I just had a grin on my face the whole movie. And while it was PG-13, which is usually, I'm like, you're making a Predator movie, PG-13? I don't care for that. But despite it was brilliantly PG-13 in the sense that it was rated R in every way that mattered. But they were brilliant. They brilliantly, just absolutely brilliantly made the choice not to have a single human in the movie, making it to where there were only aliens and robots. And when there are aliens and robots with white blood and green blood and purple blood and what the hell else ever colored blood other than red, you can slice and dice and chop and decapitate and rip spines out. You can do all of that all the livelong day and keep it PG-13. Brilliant. I also loved how the movie, it explored the culture of the Yautja, and it gave us this front row seat to their mentality as a clan of trophy hunters, essentially, who operate with, this great pride in the hunt and also in themselves. And we got to see Deck essentially buck that trend and realize that he could be more than what he was supposed to be. And he does this right alongside Thea, who is also bucking her own programming, like literal programming, and she's becoming her own person. And both of these characters are realizing that they have free will and they don't have to be what their creators told them they have to be, or have to be even necessarily what they are. They can be anything they want through their choices and the path that they decide to take in life. And they are paving their own path, I guess you could say. And God, it's a story about found family. It's so fucking good. And oh my God, the twist with the callus, also so good. Love that. I loved that they had the balls to have Deck speak Yautja the whole movie. I loved how they did the whole like Hunt for Red October, Avatar Way of Water thing, where they have Thea speaking English for our ears, but she's actually speaking Yautja. really well done. I love when films get creative like that. I just love this movie, and it is so exciting to actually, leave this kind of movie and have like no notes. Like usually a movie like this, like even if it's really fun, like you might come out saying, it was kind of dumb, but it was really fun. No, this movie is not dumb at all. It's such a good film, and it's actually a lot of fun. And man, I cannot wait to get my hands on the 4K Blu-ray. So yeah, I can't wait to see what they give us next in this franchise. I really like the direction that they've been taking both Predator and Alien, and we might actually get us a really good Alien versus Predator movie in the near future. I think that'd be pretty dope. Okay, with that, let's now talk Superman box office. We've got a great video that I put together with my friend Lee, who I work with over at Screen Crush, that I think you guys will like. It discusses the Superman box office and whether or not it was a massive hit or a major failure. So let's take a look at that. Was James Gunn's Superman a triumphant success, a miserable failure, or somewhere in between? Well, there's been a lot of discourse online about that very topic, and I've received a lot of emails asking me about the conflicting reports on this movie and its box office. So let me give you the definitive answer, the final verdict on Superman's success or lack thereof. Now, a discussion on whether or not the movie was good or bad is subjective. It comes down to your own personal opinion. However, things like box office numbers, home media and streaming metrics, and audience consensus are all fact-based and data-driven measurements that can determine whether or not Superman can be considered a victory for DC. So let's take a look at the actual, real, indisputable numbers and analyze the budget, the profit margin, the home viewing numbers, and general audience perception. Alright, so first let's calculate what Superman needed to make at the box office to break even. Break even meaning it made its money back. And there's a lot that goes into this calculation. Not only do you need to account for the total box office and production budget, but you have to include the marketing budget as well, which can sometimes be an even bigger number than the production budget. And you have to take into account the chunk of the box office that the movie theaters keep. So let's do some math. The production budget for Superman was $225 million. Now, as for the marketing budget, most reports I've seen claim that it had a $125 million marketing budget, but I have seen some other reports that it was $200 million. The film made, at the box office, about $616 million. So, Superman made more money than it cost to make and market the film, winner, winner, chicken dinner, right? Well, not so fast. For us to call it a financial success for the studio from a pure numbers perspective, we not only have to subtract their costs, but we also have to take into account the movie theater's share of the box office. Now, some like to claim that movie theaters keep roughly half of the box office, but in reality, the movie theater's split with the studio changes over the movie's run. Movie theaters keep a very small percentage of opening weekend box office, which is when movies, especially big blockbuster movies like Superman, make the bulk of their money. Opening weekend, studios keep around 90% of the box office, leaving theaters only 10%. But as the weeks go on, that number lowers and they start splitting the box office about 50-50. Now, the most common formula used to determine a movie's break-even point after the theaters take their cut is to do production budget times 2.5. For Superman, that would equal $562.2 million needed for Superman to break even, which means using that formula, Superman made a profit. But the formula that I prefer to use includes the marketing budget as well. So with this formula, we add the production budget plus the marketing budget within parentheses, and then we multiply that by 1.5, which would bring us to $585 million needed for Superman to break even, which means that with this formula as well, Superman not only broke even, but it made a profit. Now, to be fair, if we go with what I had mentioned earlier, that highest estimate for the film's marketing cost, which was $200 million, giving us a total of $425 million to make and market the movie, and then we multiply that by 1.5, we get $637.5 million, which would put Superman ever so slightly in the red. But again, that's if we even include the marketing cost in the equation, which I believe we should, and if we go with the highest estimate for the marketing cost, which most reports are saying it was 125. I was generous and included the 200 for an average of, I believe it was 163. So while I would argue that the data shows that Superman was profitable, I wouldn't dare claim that it was some box office juggernaut. Of course not. And here's why, really, this entire argument, this squabbling over, oh, a few $1,000,000 in the red, oh, it's a few $1,000,000 in the green, it's irrelevant. And a few $1,000,000 is peanuts to Warner Brothers. It's a rounding error. So whether Superman was a few million in the green or a few million in the red is irrelevant and a distraction from the real answer to whether or not Superman was successful. Here's some things to keep in mind. Superman was the highest grossing superhero film of 2025. It made more than Thunderbolts and it made more than Fantastic Four.
So you forgot me?
It is also the highest grossing DC film since 2022's The Batman, and if you want to compare it solely against DCEU films, it's the highest grossing since Aquaman in 2018. Superman made a lot more than Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, The Flash, Black Adam, and I hate to pick on the Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman 84, and Birds of Prey because they all came out during the pandemic and got day-and-day releases on HBO Max, but if we want to include those, Superman walloped all of those as well. And sure, you might be saying, well, duh, it's a Superman movie. The name alone should make it more money than those other movies, and that's true. But what we need to remember is just how bad a shape the DCEU was in. Now, the DCEU is now dead and it has been replaced by the DCU. But before the DCEU ended, a DCEU film had not even been able to crack 500 million since 2018. Most couldn't even crack 300 million, some not even 200 million. The DCEU was dead in the water and desperately in need of a reboot. We needed a movie that would get audiences excited about seeing DC movies again. Hell, to see comic book movies again. This has been a rough past few years for comic book films, and Superman had a hell of an uphill battle. And that's why I have been saying for years that Superman 2025 did not need to make a profit. It didn't even need to break even. This movie's primary goal needed to be re-establishing the brand and getting audiences excited to see DC movies again, because in the long run, that is what is going to make the studio profitable and a successful franchise. Superman 2025 making a profit at the box office needed to be priority number 2. The number 1 priority needed to be making a movie that the audience loved and was excited to see the next one, and that's what it did. You know, people forget, but Man of Steel, a movie that I love, it came out at a great time for comic book films. Its DC lead-in was the Nolan trilogy, and its genre lead-in was the Avengers. It was also just a better era for the box office as a whole, an era we haven't seen since before the pandemic and may never see again. So when I hear people say, oh, Superman didn't even make what Man of Steel made, well, it was close, but yeah, sure, Man of Steel did make about 50 million more than Superman 12 years ago. Good for it. But what did Man of Steel lead to? A Justice League movie that couldn't even crack 700 million. DC needed to build a universe from the bottom up that makes people come see the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and more people coming each time, not fewer and fewer. And that's what Superman did. Plus, cherry on top, it made a profit, if we're honest about the data. Superman has also broken record after record on home media, digital renting, and purchasing. It has also broken records on streaming with HBO Max, and the movie is beloved by audiences. Does that mean everyone loved it? Does that mean you have to love it? No, of course not. Does that invalidate your opinion of the film if you didn't like it? No, of course not. But the overwhelming majority liked the movie, and that's why Superman cannot be viewed as anything other than a major success, both perceptually and for the future of the franchise, but also just cold hard numbers. But hey, those are just my thoughts, and by the way, I am giving away a Blu-ray copy of Superman. I believe it also comes with, yeah, it comes with a digital code. All you have to do is leave a comment letting me know that you're interested, and I'll pick randomly which one of you guys I'm going to send this to. So if you do leave a comment and you want it, keep an eye out for my reply so that I can get your address to send it to if you are the lucky winner. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Before we go, can we talk? Doing what I do has been, like, ever since I started hosting more regularly on Screen Crush. And, you know, I was kind of used to this when I was doing my own thing as well, back in, like, the Infinity War days. When you do this kind of thing, your physical appearance is, you know, often one of the go-to things that people come at you for. and attack you, and they're mean. And it's just something that anytime I give someone like advice on how to work in this space, and they want a career in this space, or just want to do it for fun, my biggest thing is I say, you're gonna have people who, for whatever reason, feel the need to bully you, not based on just your opinions or your takes or what you said. They're also just going to come at you for your physical appearance. You could be the most drop dead gorgeous person on the planet. They're still going to come after you. They're going to find something to nitpick. And that happens with me all the time. I used to be, I recently lost 110 pounds. Like a year and a half ago, maybe a little over a year and a half ago now. I was weighing like 270, 280 pounds. And my primary reason for losing that weight was for my health. I wanted to be able to run around and play with my nephews at the park and take them to the arcade and stuff and not be a sweaty, out of breath mess. But also, it was hard being that big just from I felt self-conscious about it. Because like I said, I would sweat a lot. I couldn't go to things without sweating. And that was embarrassing. It was really hard, and I was self-conscious about it. And I dropped the weight. And of course, there are a lot of nice people who are like, hey, you're looking great, looking healthy, lost the weight. Other people say I look like I'm dying and I have AIDS and all this stuff. They talk about my eyes being dark under or red. They say it looks like I do drugs. The truth of the matter is I just work a lot. They wouldn't know much about that, though. So yeah, I would get made fun of for being overweight. Now that I've lost the weight, I get told I look like I'm dying of an illness. So, there's never any pleasing when it comes there. And the thing is, you don't want to try to please these people. If you're going to do something, do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for the people you care about. So that's why I lost all the weight. I did it for myself, my own health, for my nephews, for primarily my health, but also I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like how I looked. I would look in the mirror and I would be, disappointed in myself for weighing so much. And I'm glad that I lost the weight. There's another thing that I'm self-conscious about. And when you're on camera a lot, like I am for this job, it becomes even more of an issue. And that's the fact that I'm losing my hair. Pretty bad. I'll show you. Let's see. We'll just see all that. Yeah, it's worse on the right. Yeah. But yeah, my hair's gonna be wild for the rest of it. But I do pretty good about, finding a way to position it to where it doesn't look as bad. But I'm losing my hair. And I'm trying like the medicines and stuff to help it from losing any more. But the only way I'm ever going to get any of it back from the hair that's already been lost is a hair transplant. And, I get a lot of comments. People say, oh, dude, just let it go. Shave it. Go cue ball. I've shaved my head multiple times. I don't like it. And I mean like full on like shave down to I don't want to say down to the skin. But yeah, I have shaved my head. And I just don't like the look. I don't like the feel of it. I don't know. It just bothers me. I like having a little bit of hair. So here's the thing. Because I don't want to sound vain or anything like that. Because let's face it, I'm not some model. I'm not some, super handsome looking guy over here. I'm average looking dude, I think. Maybe a little below average. Kind of funny looking. I got a lazy eye. I got my nose a little crooked. I'm fully aware of all that. But the bald thing, going bald, I am sensitive about that. I mean, my dad's bald, my uncles are bald, it's in my genetics to go bald. Now, if I were not on camera, I wouldn't care. I would just go full Jack Nicholson Shining. I wouldn't give a shit. I am on camera a lot, and so I was considering getting a hair transplant, which is where they take the hair, the good hair you have in the back that is not genetically predisposed or whatever to going away, going bald. They take it, some of it, and they put it in the front, and that grows, and you have hair. It's very expensive. And contrary to popular belief, just because I work for a relatively popular YouTube channel does not mean that I make a lot of money. That sounded like I was throwing shade. I'm not. We don't make near the money on YouTube that people think YouTubers make. Anyway, they want $16,500 to do it. That's a lot of fucking money for me. Like, a lot for me. So it's really just something I can't afford, especially my wife and I are expecting a child. So I'm still considering my options. There is a cheaper way to do it. I don't know how much cheaper, where they shave your head and then do it. And when they do that, basically there's the no shave option, which requires 2 surgeons because it's more meticulous. And then there's the shave option where you only have to have 1 surgeon present. So it greatly reduces the cost, but I don't think it reduces it by half. So there's that to weigh. Do I want to be bald and have all that scarring on my head from my show and for Screen Crush? No, I don't. Do I want to just leave it the way it is? I don't know. And the whole reason I'm even talking about this is because I really feel like I just needed to talk about it. So yeah, I'm thinking about it. Probably not going to do it. Just can't afford it. Also, I don't know. Maybe I should just, I'm not going to shave my head, but maybe I should just embrace that Jack Nicholson balding. Look kind of cool. All right. I'm going to go. Remember, AskColtonNow at gmail.com if you want to see your question featured right here on the show, perhaps. I'm tired. I'm going to go. Love you all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh.